back with another review of Joslyns Cabaret, ATL Season 2, Episode 9. So let's get into it. So first off, a little side note I want to say, I don't know how hot it is like where y'all are from, but it is super hot, like hella hot. So I have the fan right next to me, so hopefully you guys don't hear the fan. I'm going to try to like talk over it as loud as possible, but yeah, just a warning. So basically this episode is a continuation of Ms. Natural pretty much getting kicked out by Joslyn. So when they started off, basically it's a whole chaotic scene, all the screaming, all the yelling, all that shit. And basically Joslyn is just telling the staff like she got 5 minutes to get the fuck out of here, get the fuck out this house, like this crazy bitch. I'm like, damn. Lexi Blowhat came down and Joslyn pretty much instructed the other girls like, go the fuck in your room and don't come out. In Joslyns confessional, she's basically saying how Miss Natural is hella fucking disrespectful and that's why she deserves to get kicked out. And she was even saying too like, oh, like she lucky I don't put hands on her, like all this shit. I'm like, okay, I really am confused because Miss Natural does have a good point. Like, why are you over here acting dumb when I already told you what the fuck was going on, why I was acting this way? Like, you were understanding before and now you're trying to flip and make it seem like you don't know what's going on. They show Miss Natural and she is like going the fuck off, like in her room, like just losing it. She's over there basically saying how like, you know, how she got her own problems, that's why she stayed away from the group. And she's like, you want to call me toxic, but bitches have been fighting here almost every single day. Like there's always drama, always bullshit, but I'm the toxic one because I stayed away because I know my own, like I'm self-aware that okay, like this may happen and this may trigger me to react like this, which I totally understand. Like some people in general just handle things differently, like you know your limits to shit in your environment. And if you gotta step away, then you gotta step away. That should be perfectly fine. Basically, she was saying how like, she started like crying and saying how she's tired of being looked at as a porn star. And she know like she went the easy way out as far as like getting like easy money and stuff like that. It was really sad and it's like, I can only imagine honestly, like obviously like she's probably like used to it, but there is probably a deeper side where she's like probably doesn't want to be known as being a porn star. Like she wants to be known as her talents and like actually like Ariel, you know? So yeah, basically Joslyn's over there telling her team like, get this crazy ass bitch out of here. And then it shows her confronting Yummy. Like I think Yummy like came down the stairs or the hallway or something, but basically she pretty much tells Yummy that she peeps the bullshit she's on. Like she's like, you know what, you're sneaky as fuck, like you don't fool me, like you got what you wanted, like you got her out this house, but I don't fuck with you at all, like I don't trust you, I don't forgive you. Like she really went the fuck off on her and basically was reiterating the same stuff like, why the fuck would you tell her this? Like, who said you could open your dick? She says dick suckers. Open your dick suckers. Like, what the fuck? And Yummy, she's trying to defend herself. And she's like, basically trying to say like, oh, it slipped out. Like, it was the heat of the moment. She was coming at me so hard. Like, whatever, bitch. Like, no, you meant to say that shit. Like, you thought long and hard in your head. Like, wait till I tell this bitch this shit. And then Joslyn's over there like, you probably fucking scared now, huh? You probably scared of Ms. Natural. I should let her pop your shit. Like, honestly, you should have, because the fact you was turned up on Ms. Natural, like, is really low-key uncalled for. Like, I'm honestly confused. Like, what? Like, granted, Ms. Natural did get really angry with her and like low-key, like, you know, like not in her face, but it's like you wouldn't let her talk and you already had her bent by trying to make it seem like you know what was going on. But basically she's over there like threatening Yummy like, oh, I should send all you bitches home. And in my head I'm like, what the rest of the girls do? Like that don't make, like that was just like, okay, Joslyn, what are you doing? Like that don't even make sense. Like the other girls did completely nothing. Like literally this has nothing to do with them. Why should they all go home? Like that just seems hella like, I don't know, like selfish to me. Like, okay. But basically she's like, I should have them all go home. And she was basically telling Yummy how she's pretty much gonna turn the girls against her and they're gonna be like a pack of hyenas just laughing and shit. And then Yummy P in her confessional, she's like, what's a hyena? It's like a goddess lion. Like this bitch. Like why didn't you say that in person though? So then after she like confronts Yummy, like Boss Tech peeps out of her room because she's obviously overhearing like, you finna send us home. She asks her like, you're not gonna send us home, right? Joslyn's hella mad and she's basically like, I'm sending everybody home, I'm hella upset. And then she was like, well, since your ass is out here, you know what, fuck it, like bring all the other girls out, including Yummy, like let's all talk. So basically Joslyn and the girls, they're, I believe, downstairs all on the couch, plus the enemy number one, Yummy. Basically, Joslyn's reiterating to the girls how Yummy has her fucked up and just tells the whole situation that had just went down with them, Miss Natural, and her throwing her under the bus. So she's telling them, and then Yummy's trying to defend herself, and she's over there like, well, I wasn't thinking, blah, blah, blah. And Jocelyn's basically like peeping the bullshit. Pretty much like, what the fuck? She's like, no, like you were thinking. Like, that's why Miss Natural don't fuck with you, because basically you hella calculated and you hella fucking grimy. Like, don't even try to play. In Joslyn's confessional, she was basically saying how she pretty much like is starting to believe Miss Natural now and everything that Miss Natural was saying about her. And I'm like, well, duh, bitch. Like, how could you not see through the little, like, now you see through the little girl actor role, but I'm like, okay. And basically Sapphire speaks up and she's over there basically telling her like, you know, like, I never had no problem with you, but we all ready to pretty much like whoop your ass. Like, what the fuck? Because now it's like they may not be able to, you know, stay and they didn't even do shit wrong. And Jocelyn's basically going off and it's like, yeah, that bitch got exactly what she wanted. Like, she, you know, plotted this, did all this to be ended up in this big chaotic situation. And Big Lex was, she popped in. She said that the girls in the house, basically, they know what to not do or say to, like, mess with Miss Natural. So basically what I'm assuming is everyone knows Miss Natural got them hands and she really will fuck you up. So they already know to, like, play it cool with her, like, be on her good side. So they are obviously seeing through yummy shit, too, because it's like, why the fuck would you fuck with her, especially knowing all the shit she's going through? Like, everybody knows she's really going through it. And Sapphire basically, you know, she starts preaching. We know how Sapphire is very animated with it. But she's basically just like, from here on out, any girl in here who's trying to be like toxic or cross Joslyn, whatever the fuck, like, you're out. Like, you done. Like, what the fuck are you doing here? And Big Lex and Lucky, they both speak up because they're basically saying how, like, you know, she needs to fucking bounce. Like, I'm trying to stay. And Yummy was over there. This part got me. Yummy's gonna be like to Joslyn, or I guess Joslyn and the girls, but like, but what about her yelling in my face? Are you serious? Like, girl, she was yelling in your face because you had threw her under the bus in front of everybody and then try to deny that y'all was even friends and do all this other crazy ass shit. Like, why are you like delusional? And that really pissed off Joslyn. She was basically like, bitch, like, we don't believe you. Like, you're a fucking liar. Like, I don't fuck with you. And she really did turn the girls against her like that. She went off on the astrology tangent and was basically like, oh, like, you're a Virgo. Like, Virgos always like get want everything they can get, blah blah blah, but you can't in this fucking house. Like, you dealing with two fucking Scorpios. I'm like, whoo, yeah. And Scorpios are crazy, I will say that. And the men Scorpio in particular, I do not fuck with at all. Like, never again. But basically, it pretty much ends with Joslyn kind of leaving it up to the girls, low-key in a way. Like, y'all tell me what y'all, like, think, like, if she should be out the house or not. And then Joslyn said basically that she's going to think on it herself. Because she's basically like, it's either, well, Sapphire basically brought this up. But Sapphire's basically like, it's either they both stay or they both go. So basically, it's like break. They just need time to chill and figure shit out. So the next scene we get is Joslyn literally butt-ass naked. Like, slow scene walking in, titties out, kitty out. Basically, she get in the pool and skinny dipping, and she invited Sapphire to come celebrate with her. Sapphire didn't skinny dip with her. She actually had like a bathing suit on. One thing, I did not realize how, like, I knew Sapphire was tatted, obviously, because we could see from her arms that she's tatted, but I didn't realize that literally her whole, like, front, back, butt is literally, like, every inch tatted. I was like, damn. But yeah, so she comes out with champagne or whatever, and they're getting in the pool, and Sapphire automatically starts off with saying how, like, you know, she's, like, dedicated to being a good captain, and she's really here for this, blah, 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 all that shit. Joslyn, being messy, basically asked her, like, damn, like, so why no one vote for Lexi Blow? Because you know how Joslyn let the girls, like, she chose them to as being good and let the girls choose who they wanted, and it was unanimous. And Sapphire, her response was cool, no shade, nothing. She was like, honestly, I feel like they didn't vote for her because she's neutral, I guess, when it comes to, like, the house and shit. But she's like, when it comes to the cabaret, though, like, she's serious. Like, she's really all for it. Sapphire has to bring up her age once again. And she basically starts talking about how, like, her and Lexi Blow, how they're both, like, older in the house. And they're really here for, like, blah, blah, blah. And Joslyn, like, cuts her off. And this is where you actually find out how old Sapphire is. And she was like, girl, like, you're only 33. Like, you're not even, like, that old. And Jocelyn, her confessional, she's like, bitch, like, don't rain on my parade. Like, if you want to rain on yours, cool. But, like, I'm good being in my 30s, you know? And granted, I honestly, like, Sapphire looks low-key younger than that. Like, when she said older, I assumed, like, late 20s. But I did not think she was 33. I was like, oh, shit. That's not old. She just grown. Like, to me, I would consider that, like, okay, she grown because she, like, older than me. But so then Ballistic, he comes out and he's on the balcony and he's low-key, like, not going off on Joslyn, but kind of like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, he's hot. And in his confessional, he's basically like, I hold my woman to a certain standard. And why the fuck are you butt-ass naked? And Sapphire's not butt-ass naked. And I'm not there. Like, what are you trying to do? And Joslyn, in her confessional, she's basically like, he knew what he was getting into. Like, before he, like, got engaged to me, like, he knew exactly, like, the person I was. So I don't even know why the fuck he's mad. Which is true, because it's like, Joslyn's always kind of been that, you know, like, she's very in tune with her sexuality, you know? So I don't know. But basically they go back to talking and Sapphire's preaching on how she's going to do a good job and like help Joslyn like get these girls together and basically represent what the cabaret means to her. And Joslyn was basically saying how like she fucks with Sapphire like that because she's basically a grown-ass woman, like really doing grown woman things. Then Sapphire basically says like she only feels like there's about like, you know, like a few girls who can like make it to the top 4. So then Joslyn's like, who do you think that is? Sapphire, she says obviously herself, Lexi Blow, Big Lex, and Lucky. And I'm like, Lucky, okay. Lexi Blow, okay. Big Lex. Like maybe they just be getting her, having her fucked up every time they show her, but I swear every time they show her, she just be like completely off, like behind a whole A count. But okay. And it was surprising to me because she didn't say nothing. Joslyn didn't say nothing about Big Lex. So I'm like, maybe like the cameras be having her fucked up because she called out Lucky and she was like, but Lucky don't remember the routine. Like, what you mean? And Sapphire was like, no, like Lucky got the routine. Like she's the reason why I got it the way I do. Like she helped me out. And then she was telling her like that's why like she rides for Lucky so hard and that's why she went so hard that one time where Lucky got her crown like dethroned and she was like, nah, like this is my little nigga, you know? Joslyn brings up the whole Yummy situation, basically talking about how she's a snake ass bitch and threw her under the bus, blah blah blah. And Sapphire was basically saying how it really isn't fair for Miss Natural to get like kicked out, like especially because they both agreed she's been doing a good job, and I'm sure Miss Natural has, because Miss Natural can actually like dance. But Sapphire was like, yeah, that's why for me decision wise it's either like they both go or they both stay, like that's the only fair thing, which I feel like honestly, I feel like I don't understand why Yummy can't go and Miss Natural just stay. Like, why can't it just be that? Like, y'all all agree she's a snake-ass bitch. She can't be trusted. She started all this shit. Just send her home and keep Miss Natural. But I guess we're trying to be the fairest. Then they start talking about how they can't swing on her because they feel like, because she's so small, it's like them fighting their kids. I'm like, y'all stop. See, that's size discrimination. I'm a tall girl. I feel like some people, like, in the past have automatically went after me because I thought because I'm tall, like, I'm about to, like, be like, oh, like, you know, like, you could fuck with me. But it's like, no, you can't. And if you small, you doing it, you'll get your ass beat just like a tall person doing it. Like, Sapphire was saying how she feels like Yummy is pretty much a manipulator, and Joslyn agrees. At this point, we all know Yummy is a manipulator and is a fucking liar. And if anybody gets crazy in this house, it's not Miss Natural. It's really Yummy P. Because I still can get over that whole age thing. That's just weird. But basically it ends with them getting off the pool and Joslyn in her confessional basically saying she's still got a lot to think about. She hasn't really come to like a decision yet, and that she's gonna go upstairs and kiss Ballistic's big black ass because he's butthurt. So in the next scene, Joslyn decides that she wants to bring a psychiatrist in to go and talk to the girls. She brings in Dr. Harris, who basically is there to help the ladies grow and to be better. And she basically tells him how she needs to know where they come from and how they are so that they can be in her life, especially with all the stuff going with Miss Natural. And Yummy P is actually really like a crazy ass bitch. So like, I don't blame her for her, you know, wanting to take extra precaution. Basically, Joslyn just sits down and she's like explaining the whole like rules of like the competition and them being the cabaret. And then he's over there basically saying like, oh, like it seems like you really care, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know about all that. Could just be for TV. Because Joslyn be kind of flip-flopping really fast. But basically, he has a one-on-one with each of them. I basically wrote out each of the conversation. He asked them pretty much the same thing. Basically asked them, how's it been in the house? How's the environment? And like, what are your goals? So just to give that like a little overview. So the first person who's up is Lucky. Lucky already don't fuck with him because she's roasting his hair, and no lie, his hairline was like fucked up. Like it did look very toupee fake. I don't know. It was a lot going on. She was over there saying how like the sides don't match the top. It really didn't. Like I don't know who did his hair. Like that was just out of pocket. But basically he asked her, like I said, the first question, how the cabaret's been, and she was telling him about how she basically ended up getting into it with Barbie and walking that bitch like a dog. I was like, wow. And then she tells him how her goal is to have like a skincare line, and how that dancing isn't like her, like, you know, her forever thing, that she's better than that and she wants to grow from it. So then when Chanel comes in, Chanel basically is talking about, you know, how she came to win, and how being in this house has been a roller coaster ride, especially, you know, with her and Barbie being friends and not being friends no more, her and Boss Tech kind of getting into it, people starting to think like she's fake or whatever. But she was basically also talking about too how she feels like, well, not even feels, she basically admits that she is alcoholic, and she's like, no lie, like I drink like every day. And then they do a flashback, because I guess that time when all the girls had went up and they first were like doing pole work in front of Joslyn, and like how she busted her ass, she was drunk. So she busted her ass because she was under the influence, which I didn't know that at the time. But then she went into a little bit deeper and was talking about how her family, like they all drink and do drugs, how she comes from a family of strippers, so that it's kind of like in her blood. And then he starts basically telling her like basic shit, like, you know, obviously try to replace, you know, alcohol with water, like duh. And then he asks her like medically how she's doing, like does she has tremors, and she starts telling him how she does. And he basically tells her straight up, like, there's going to be no success if you keep on continuing with your alcohol. So, like, you already know what to do. Next is Big Lex. And she basically, in her confessionals, was saying how, like, you know, she already don't open up to the girls. So she don't even plan on opening up to him either. Like, this is whatever to her. But basically, she tells him how things have been going good in the house for her. But she had to get on some people and nip them in the bud. Basically, fight them. And he was basically saying how, like, you know, you shouldn't fight them first. Like, think before, like, you know, your actions. And she had made a comment saying how, like, oh, once you get the Winkest Link out of here, obviously Aqua, then the whole package just turns into leaders. I'm like, okay. But she basically agrees with him and says that she should basically think before she acts on shit. But at the end of the day, she's gonna eliminate these bitches. I'm like, I guess. And then Sapphire, how her goal is to make it to the end of the show and basically just grow as a performer. She says that even when she's having, like, her bad days and just, like, down on herself, she always tries to tell herself, like, you know, make it make sense. Like, why are you here? Like, you're here for a reason. And yeah, I got deep for a little bit, but then he ruined it, because he basically told her, like, it's okay to cry. And then he was like, and then, you know, after you cry, you gotta get up there and go on that pole, girl. Like, what the fuck? Like, whose doctor is this really? Like, I need to see his license. So then it was Lexi Blow, and Lexi Blow was basically saying how she felt like he was looking more at her boobs than her. But they actually had a pretty good conversation. She basically was talking about how she's always been her own supporter, and goes into detail how when she got pregnant at 17, her mom actually kicked her out the house, and she hasn't really been in her life or helping with her kids until, like, very recently. And it's crazy because she was saying too how her parents are both young parents, so it's just like, what the fuck? And she did say that her mom was dealing with her own battles because her stepdad had an overdose. So her mom dealing with that, and then everything else going on. Like, you know, she kind of feels for her. And he actually asked her too, like, are you angry at your mom? And she's like, no. And she basically was saying, like, as she got older, she ended up appreciating her more. And he was basically telling her, like, yeah, like, tough love. I still think I get tough love, but I feel like, how are you going to kick her out for being a young parent, but you were also a teen mom too? Like, that makes no sense. Like, I get it, but, like, I'm confused. So then Boss Tech comes in, and we've already been through this Boss Tech now. Like, this is like the third time. She already talked to the girls about this. She went in to talk to Ballistic about it. It's pretty much the same shit. She came in with the drink in her hand. At this point, I feel like they're just doing that for the show, because it's like, okay, the alcoholic, of course, is going to walk in with a ready-to-made drink in her hand once again, while she's sitting there trying to talk about how she wants to stop drinking. But basically, he's telling her that it's her fifth one, and he basically tells her straight up that it's unethical for him to talk to her with her being under the influence. And they basically just get into her problems. It's the same shit that we've already honestly heard before, so there's nothing really more to go over. And he pretty much is telling her, like, basically you're the type of person where you really won't like get help or take the help seriously until you hit rock bottom. And some people are like that. Like some people are very hard-headed. I know my pastor always like told us, and even myself too, like the more hard-headed you are, like sometimes God keeps putting you in the same lessons but making it like worse and worse until you like get the point. And I feel like that's how Boss Tech is. Like she really has to hit rock bottom, or it has to be something like serious where she's like in the hospital about to die type shit for her to be like, okay, I don't want to do this. Because honestly right now it does seem like it's a fucking joke to her. Like he's basically telling her like, I can believe that, you know, like God can help you. And then the last person is Yummy P, because Miss Natural didn't participate in this because we don't know what the deal is with her. But Yummy P was basically saying how she loves being part of the cabaret, and then she starts bringing up the whole Miss Natural stuff that was going on. And she was over there saying like, oh, God's in control and it can backfire on them. Like, but you're the one who caused all the drama. Like, I'm confused. Like, okay. But she had mentioned too how she hasn't gotten physical yet, but if it gets cracking, then she'll get cracking, which I really don't think she will. Because she had many opportunities to swing on people, and she never does. She just talks shit in the confessional like she's big and bad, but in person, she be looking scared as fuck, so... But basically, they go into stuff with her mom and her mom's drinking problem, all that stuff that we've already heard before. And he basically was just telling her that she needs to focus on communicating and really telling her mom or whoever in her life how she really feels. I do feel like it was a good idea for him coming in this house to help the girls. Like, it makes sense because a lot of them probably do deal with shit, and especially being dancers, there's a whole different layer to what they deal with. But I just wish they would have brought in someone, like, better, because he just seemed like he was really there for play. Like... I couldn't take him seriously. Maybe it was the hair, I don't know, but he just looked goofy as fuck. Alright, so in the last scene, we have Joslyn in her room reading a book. It may have been a Bible, I'm not sure, but it just looked so fake. I'm like, girl, you ain't reading shit. But basically, she in the room reading, and Miss Natural comes in. And it's funny because in both of the confessionals, it shows them basically staring like, bitch, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to talk to this bitch. Like, rolls eyes. But basically, Miss Natural tells her how she feels upset and she feels disrespected that she would call her toxic when at the end of the day, like, she told her what was going on and she's never been here for that bullshit. She only came to dance. And Joslyn was like, but we dance here every day. Maybe you haven't danced because you've been away from us. And Miss Natural was like, well, that's because of the bullshit. Like, and she pretty much says, like, you know what? She's her own fireworks. She already knows what her struggles and what triggers her. So that's why she stays away, because she's not going to jeopardize anything for her kid in this legal situation she has going on with him. And then Joslyn brings up again how she was being toxic the first 4 days. And she was like, so what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to know what's going on? And even I was confused because I'm like, we literally saw the conversation that Miss Natural had with her about what was going on, and Joslyn seemed understanding. So her trying to like fake play that she don't know what's going on and still trying to bring up, oh, you're toxic, you're toxic, you're toxic. But it's like she literally told you why she was acting toxic in that moment, and you're trying to act like you don't know. Like, it's just weird. Like, I don't know. It's very like, I'm not really fucking with that on Joslyn's end of things. But Miss Natural is basically like, look, like, I'm damaged and I know I am, but at the end of the day, I know what I want and I'm not going backwards. First and foremost, I'm a mom. Like, I'm not about to like risk any shit over no bullshit. And Joslyn in her confessional was basically like, oh, I'm cold to this bitch, and talking about how she can beat her ass and all this shit. And then Miss Natural really starts crying because basically Joslyn was still bringing up the whole toxic shit. And Miss Natural was basically like, are you for real? And she was like, you're a mom too. Like, I had a real life problem going on that I told you about, thinking you understand where I'm coming from. And you over here trying to act like I'm just like this horrible ass person. And honestly, this whole season so far, Miss Natural really hasn't done shit at all. Like, she's literally been one of the coolest ones. Like, I fuck with Miss Natural. So I am kind of looking at Joslyn sideways. Like, why are you acting hella, like, weird and shit? Like, it's just very, like, what the fuck? And then basically Joslyn's like, okay, well, and then she admits that Miss Natural was telling her shit that was happening. She's like, okay, well, the first 4 days, your sister stole your car. And that low-key, like, ticked Miss Natural off, because she started laughing. But you know that laugh that you're about to do before you beat somebody's ass? Like, that last straw you don't pull before you know, like, you fucked up? She started laughing, because basically, she didn't get her car stolen. Her sister basically asked for her permission, but she basically felt like Joslyn was putting dubs on her shit. So she was just sitting there, like, smiling like this bitch. And Joslyn was basically like, what the fuck are you like smiling for? And she was like, you know what, I can't deal with all these episodes, like, you need to basically go home. But we still don't know if she goes home or not. It left off on a cliffhanger, which I hate because I'm like, the first episode left off on a cliffhanger whether she goes home or not. And this still does too. I'm like, damn, like, when are we going to find out? But that was the end of the episode. And for the next week's episode highlights, basically, it's a continuation. They have a scene with Joslyn basically saying how, to Miss Natural, how she can't help her what she got going on because she got the same attitude, same energy, whoop-de-whoop. And there's a scene with the Big Lex talking to Yummy P and basically telling her, like, bitch, we can't trust you. Like, you literally went against, like, the boss. Like, how can we trust you? And then there's a scene where Sapphire and Lucky, they made Joslyn and Ballistic breakfast in bed and basically brought them food to tell them how much they appreciated them. Joslyn catches up Ballistic on all the shenanigans going in the house. And the biggest scene that we're going to see next week is who gets chosen. I'm assuming the top 4 or whatever for the cabaret. Joslyn basically is telling them that it's the girls' last night to prove what they got, and that she's going to be splitting people up. So I'm excited to finally see who's going to get picked and whether they're going to get picked on their actual talent or on some other bias, because I don't know, Jocelyn's kind of moving weird. But that was the end of this episode. If you like this review, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on my socials, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.